Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplar Preparedness. This is going to be 6 things that you should not do when it comes to inflation, and I will at the end of the video give you 4 things to do of how you can cope better with high inflation rates. You're not being told this out there, but I'm telling it to you. Let's go over the basics of what not to do first. First thing is don't buy stocks blindly, okay? So if you're trying to hide your money from inflation, because if you have a bunch of money sitting in your IRA or a retirement plan or even your bank accounts or your brokerage accounts, the inflation is reaching down into your bank account and is pulling money out. So you've already lost about 10 to 20% of the value of your retirement accounts over the past year. That's where inflation is at right now, the actual rate of inflation. So don't just buy stocks blindly, okay? Because you're being told out there that stocks are going to go up faster than inflation will, but that's not necessarily true. Some things that you need to weigh in your stocks are, is it a heavy asset-rich company? We've really spent so much time being so excited about stocks that are tech stocks recently, stocks that have very little inventory, very little assets, but they have lots of debt, and they have this intellectual property or this future earnings kind of thing. The growth stocks, so to speak. Those are not good for inflation because when it really comes down to it, will they be able to hike their prices fast enough? And maybe not. But assets that are like in industries that have a lot of machinery, parts, warehouses, that kind of stuff, if they have a lot of assets that they own, those assets are going to appreciate, and that's going to help insulate the stock from the inflation effects. So you want companies that have a lot of assets. You don't mind if those companies have a lot of debt that's securing those assets. That's something new, because the debt is actually going to get wiped out by inflation. It's going to make the debt go down significantly while the assets are going to increase in value. That $100,000 piece of machinery that you took out a $100,000 loan on, you get to pay that back with future dollars that are going to be worth far, far less, but that piece of machinery is going to be worth about the same amount. A lot more in dollars, but the same value in like gold or silver or something like that. So stable businesses that have lots of assets, that's something you should buy, but don't just buy stocks blindly. Second thing, don't just buy foreign stocks. This is not just a United States problem. Europe is having the same issue. Canada is having the same issue. A lot of the developed world is having the same issue. So you need to be very careful about, if you're going to try to get around this by investing in foreign stocks, make sure that you're investing in a very stable country that's not going to be impacted by the implosion of the United States and Europe, which is basically everywhere. So foreign stocks is probably something you should be really careful about. Don't just blindly buy foreign stocks. Third, don't buy bonds, okay? In bonds, with their interest rates, you're on the wrong side of that loan. You're going to get a certain percentage of interest every year, but the simple fact is that you're going to get dollars back that are worth way, way less. You're going to get maybe 2-3% interest on a loan, but you're going to lose value on that money you parked there to the tune of 10, 15, 20% right now. And in the future, it could get much, much worse. You don't want to be a sucker holding a bunch of bonds. So if you have bonds, you might want to get out of them. All right, so what else should you not do? Number 4, you should not wait to buy things. And when I say things, I mean things, food, anything that you're going to need in the future, buy that now, because you can buy more of it now with the dollars that you have. If you have a lot more dollars, you need to look into things like real estate, silver, gold. Those type of things can get rid of that paper money that's losing value and get it into assets that aren't depreciating quite so fast. Okay? Be aware that those are investments. Consult investment advisors, or make sure you know what you're doing, but buy things. convert your cash into things. If you have a whole bunch stuffed in a bank account, you need to get that into substantive things. If you have a whole bunch in your brokerage account, in stocks and bonds and stuff like that, you need to think about getting that money into things as well. Number 5, do not buy more expensive luxuries. This is something that is more at the smaller level of what you need to do, is that in order to beat inflation, you need to stop caring so much about brands. You need to start buying cheaper stuff from cheaper stores. You need to, if the price is going up, you need to buy the more cheaper options in order to do that. That may mean, and horror of horrors, but that may mean not buying meat for your family quite as much and eating more rice and beans, or something that's simpler, something that's cheaper, right? So you need to start adjusting your lifestyle downward as your real income is dropping. You need to adjust your lifestyle downward. If you don't, you're going to be like a bunch of those people out there that are going to get hit by the freight train, and they're not going to know what hit them. You need to realize that if you're getting paid the same amount this year that you were last year, you got a pay cut of 10, 15, or 20% this year, depending on what items we're talking about. So that's a very real reality. If you lost that much of your income, how would that affect your living? If you're on Social Security, same thing. If you just got a pay cut here, you need to adjust your living downward. That's not a pretty thing to say. That's not a fun thing to say. But if you're adjusting your lifestyle downward, that means buying some things that are a little more cheap, a little more less expensive. Number 6, do not wait to be fired. If you're working, if you have a job, you need to go through the mental process of what is going to transpire in the next number of years. If you're going to get fired in the future, maybe you need to fire yourself now so you can get to a better or a safer job now. It may not be what looks like a good job right now. You may go from what looks like a nice job down to a job that seems to be less important or not quite as good. But by making that transition now, you can actually ensure a lot of stability for your family. Now, what do I mean by that? You need to be in a job that is essential. Something that people aren't going to be like, oh, well, I don't have money. I'm not going to spend money on this thing anymore. If you're selling new yachts, we'll get back to that in a second, but if you're selling brand new TVs, if you're selling certain things that are not necessities, the question is this where people are going to cut their budget in order to balance their budget? And if it is, you and your company may be out of business, or your company may downsize you. So you need to be either something that is very necessary, right? Or the second thing you can do, another strategy, is the rich tend to make it through these type of things relatively unscathed because they got smart people telling them how to invest their money and such. So they will hide their money from this inflation, and all the poor people are going to get hosed. That's what happens every time. The depression, high inflation rates, this always happens. So if you can be someone that the wealthy people need, then that is good. And that's one of the reasons why I got into accounting, working for a small CPA tax firm. I was working for and directly working for wealthy people, providing them financial value. So therefore, that does kind of insulate me at my day job from being downsized, because the rich people generally are going to make it through this. All right, so let's go to 4 things that you can do in addition to those things that you shouldn't do, right? You should grow or make your own. We talk about this all the time. That's one of the reasons why the garden is so important. The crap may hit the fan, or inflation may just go outrageous, or we may have a depression, or we may have a war. All those things, having a garden is a big deal. It allows you to grow your own food. Think of it this way. If you buy $1,000 worth of groceries that you can grow in your garden, you pay tax on that money before you buy it. So let's just say you're having to earn $1,300, $1,400, maybe $1,500 in order to buy that $1,000 worth of groceries. You grow that same amount of groceries out in your garden, and you have just made $1,500 tax-free. Think about that. That is nice. Tax-free money is great. So whatever you can grow or do yourself, that's something you do want to do. Next thing, productive assets. You should be buying productive assets, not just stuff. We already talked about buying stuff that you're going to use, stuff that you'd buy anyway, but now let's talk about buying assets that actually produce value. So chickens are a good example of something that produces value. I buy chickens, and I'm actually buying a whole bunch of eggs. And if I had a rooster, if I was allowed to have a rooster, that would make it so that I would be able to make chickens, right? So if you do that with quail or animals, so livestock is a productive asset. That's one of the reasons why we should be talking about it. Your garden is a productive asset. You sink a bunch of money into your garden, as long as you actually grow some food, you're actually producing something. Not only did you increase the value of your home, but you have increased, you're going to get some income off of that. Other things like that is tools. Tools are anything that you can rent out, but with tools, and I mean that for anything, whatever you're into. If you're into quilting, get whatever you need for quilting. If you can make money by selling stuff out of your kitchen, baking and stuff like that, upgrade your kitchen. Productive assets. If you can change tires, if you can do that, if you have the right equipment, go buy the equipment to do that so you can start your own home business where you can use those assets to make money doing it for other people and even for yourself, right? So productive assets. It's hard to think through all those things, but also think whatever you can rent to somebody, right? So if you have a tractor or something like that and you can rent that out to other people, that might be a very good investment. Not only does it hide your money because it's an asset, but it's also a productive asset, so it's actually going to generate you income and things that you need. Do buy gold, silver, real estate. We already talked about that sort of. Also, hide your assets. In inflation or depression, being seen as wealthy makes you a target, not only from poor people, but also rich people, like the government. If you have more than your fair share, then you better watch out. So what you need to do is you need to be gray man. You need to think about hiding your assets, whether that's on your property, on a separate property. Make your stuff hard to confiscate. Make your stuff hard to steal. That's important. If you're taking your money out of banks and putting it into hard assets, make sure that those hard assets are hard to find or hard to steal. That is my list of 10 things to do or not do to survive inflation. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have other tips, tricks, pop them in the comments down below. None of this was, of course, investment advice because I am not an investment advisor. Do your own homework, do your own research, but those hopefully are general guidelines to get you thinking and asking the right questions. God bless you all. At 1 o'clock today, we will drop another video, which will be a subscriber report update from you guys and some interesting stuff coming in from around the world that will be linked there once that video is posted. Have a great day.